clock on the wall tells us it's time for another episode of Learn, Teach, Lead, where we explore how educators, just like you, are using innovative instructional strategies, including how to leverage AI to improve teaching and learning.
Each week, we share real classroom stories, tools, and tips to help you save time, personalize instruction, and lead with confidence.
I'm Jeanine Nostrum, an elementary school principal.
And I'm Robyn D'Angelo, an elementary school teacher. Let's get started with today's Friday debrief.
Okay, Robyn, it's nice to see you. I feel like it's been a long time since we've recorded an episode. I think it hasn't been since 2025. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes, excited to be back.
Yes, yeah. And I know, although it's been a while that we have, filmed an episode, we have been doing a lot of work and a lot of amazing things have been going on. So I hope you don't mind if I start with a shared fabulous moment of the week, because I think this is something that's fabulous for both of us. And that is that over the break, you and I collaborated to write an article for Educational Viewpoints magazine. And we submitted it, we completed it. It's all about our work here with the teachers and using AI to foster better assessment practices and deepen students' critical thinking, creating personalized pathways. And we're hoping that the article gets accepted. But I have to say, it was a lot of fun working on it. And I felt like it was helpful to me in terms of just wrapping up all of the work that we've done into one cohesive package. So hopefully it will get published, and later we can link that article for anyone who wants to follow our journey and perhaps replicate it at their own school.
Absolutely. And it was it was an honor working with you, Jeanine, first of all. And it was just an honor to be part of such an amazing initiative, to co-write this article with you, because what an amazing message it does send.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So that's a shared fabulous moment of the week for both of us. So, and even if it doesn't get published, I have to say, just the act of writing it, I found to be, very helpful in terms of, wrapping up the work that we've done and just kind of making it something that we can explain easily to other teachers, because I do think it has a lot of value, and I think a lot of other people would like to replicate it. So speaking of replicating the work that we're doing, that actually gave me the idea for this week's episode. So I hope you don't mind that we're going to put you on the spot a little bit this week, because as I was writing, my portion of the article, I was thinking to myself that really none of this would have happened without you, Robyn, as stepping forward as a teacher leader to, help advance the work forward. Because, the idea for all of this came from a workshop that I attended. And I know nothing, makes a teacher more nervous than their building administrator going to a workshop and coming back with an idea. But after I shared the idea with the staff, you did step forward as a teacher leader to help me see where we could go with this idea of using AI to perhaps help us do a better job of analyzing student work and creating these personalized pathways and deepen student thinking, comprehension, critical thinking, all of that. So if you don't mind, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit about, stepping forward as a teacher leader and just kind of interview you about that process and how you cultivated this role, because we started just you and I chatting, and then it was you and your grade level partner, and then it was the whole grade level, and now it's other grade levels, and now actually it's high school and district wide. And, it really has been an amazing example of teacher leadership and the influence and the importance of teacher leaders. So I guess we should jump right into my first question, which is, what does the term teacher leader mean to you? Do you see yourself as a teacher leader? Is it something that you aspired to be? Talk to me a little bit about how you feel when, I say that you're a teacher leader, or you hear other people say that.
Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words, because to hear you say that truly as one of my, role models in my teaching practice, that is absolutely beyond meaningful to me. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So when I'm thinking of a teacher leadership, looking back at my journey of being a teacher for so many years in the school district, teaching middle school and elementary school, but also being an entrepreneur for 15 years and owning my own business, I feel like all of that has contributed to kind of, be taking on that leadership role. To me, it's not a position. It's more of an influence. It's more of a trust that you build in your community of teachers and your colleagues. And it's more of a modeling for me. I always say it's growth and not perfection. It's about growing together and not always being perfect at what we do, but learning from what we do. It's about modeling, and it's not a position that you hold. It's truly about what you do in your own practice. And through the years, I've always had two very distinct sayings. One is take the high road. And I think of myself as a leader always taking the high road, because I feel like when you lead with integrity and you choose professionalism over ego or being right, that's collaboration. You're not comparing yourself. And innately we do compare ourselves to people, but it's more of collaborating for best practice of what can we do next, and earning trust through that consistency and not trying to prove somebody wrong. It's taking that high road of integrity, working together. So that's the first thing. And the second thing I always say is you're competing with yourself. Being human, we do have that level of competition. But I feel as if I keep that mindset of you're competing only against yourself, that means that you're measuring your success of your impact and not always being recognized always for it. It's lovely to be recognized and everybody loves that, but it's not always about the recognition. It's about what is the impact? What's the best next move, not who's doing it better. So to me, that is a teacher leadership position. And I feel like as if you have that mindset, you're gradually pulled into that leadership role, whether you're trying to be a leader or not. And I believe that kind of just talking through ideas with people, earning that trust and modeling is a big factor. What I do in my classroom, I model first. I always do it first to earn that credibility before asking somebody else to try it. And I think that that's also looking at yourself and thinking about in that leadership, mentality. If you can't do what you're practicing, what you're trying to have other people do, then how are you setting that example? So being that good role model and kind of stepping into that leadership position, I feel like you have to have that in your practice as well in a day-to-day. So I try to do that in my classroom with my students. I try to always model, be a good role model, try to do best practice in my classroom, because once teachers see that, then you can bring on to that colleague collaboration for other teachers to want to do as well. Then you have the professionalism and the expertise to talk about it. Because if you haven't tried it and you're just talking about it, it's not as valid as if you say, hey, guess what I did in my class and look at how it worked. And we had a lot of those moments last year with developing of new initiatives and looking at those writing samples. And when we got our test scores back from the state, that was the validity of the best practice. But being a leader, you have to practice that before you can have other people try it. So when I do go into my PLC groups or strategy groups, we talk about like what worked and what didn't, but we come with true student data. It's not something that is made up. This is true in practice and form. And being a leader, being transparent with that data, you're not going to be perfect, but you know what? You're collaborating to find, again, what's the next step. You're going to make it feel doable for teachers, not something that's an extra job. As a leader, I'm doing this in my classroom. Let's try it together. And I truly feel that excitement comes with collaboration, because I feel like I've seen in my colleagues that excitement. that want to work together. And I think that that's also being part of a leader, having people be excited about a mission that you're working together with, that they can see in their own practice, in their own action, building that community. It's not, something we have to do. It's not, we're not, not compliant if we don't do it, but we're building that sense of community and collaboration together. And that, to me, working with people, seeing them shine, building them up, but staying humble to your own practice and making sure that you can do it, I think that innately makes you fall into that leadership role.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on so many things, Robyn, as you were talking. I was just jotting down a few things, just listening to it through the lens of a building leader, is that some of the things you mentioned are exactly why a lot of building leaders struggle with initiatives that they're trying to cultivate throughout the school. And it's because they don't tap into the lived experience of the classroom teacher. As a building leader, I'm not in the classroom managing all the things that a teacher needs to manage, plus implementing a new initiative. That's why a lot of teachers will say to administrators or supervisors when a new initiative comes along, well, can you come into my classroom and show me? You know what I mean? Because they know that, the theory and practice and idea is or the theory and the idea of something is different from the actual practice of it. And teacher leaders will step forward and say, this is how it's going in my classroom. I can share with you my lived experience, and then that leads to collaboration because there's validity, right? You've done all the things a teacher needs to do, plus you figured out ways to implement AI for assessment and create these personalized pathways. And so you can share those practical day to day tips. And I think that's just so extremely valuable for other teachers to see. And it's also very valuable for building leaders to continually refocus on the fact that you are not in the classroom. And unless you are in that classroom day to day, you don't know it all. You might have a brilliant idea, you might have a hunch, you might have some background knowledge, but without that piece of the teacher, the expert in the classroom, you really don't have the full picture. So, to me, the most interesting thing about our collaboration has been seeing this, work or this idea through the teacher's eyes, right? Like, the day-to-day nitty-gritty of making it work and folding it into curriculum and time management and logistics. And wow, this was a brilliant idea. And then we realized that the kids, didn't have strong enough typing skills to so all the little pieces that kind of come together to influence an initiative. So thank you, that was a very helpful insight into your role as a teacher leader.
And if I could just say one other thing, because you have supported me so much throughout this journey of, of looking at the initiatives and kind of taking on the role of that leader to filter it to other teachers in order for them to want to collaborate and become excited. I really feel another great thing that a teacher leader has to do is reflect. It's not always going to be perfect, but listening to each other. And you do such a great job at this, Jeanine, listening to your teachers and listening to what they need and what could be doable and modeling that in best practice, again, will not get you to who's right, who's wrong, who's winning, but it will get you to what's the next best move for your teachers, for your students, because they're at the center. And that reflection has to be within you and understanding where to go next to get your teachers, or your colleagues able to make this a doable mission and initiative.
Yeah, and I think the discussion about what's the next best thing to teach, just kind of folding in our work with AI here. How many times, Robyn, have we asked AI, what do you think is the next best thing to teach? So we'll kind of like kick around what we think, oh, maybe we should do this next, what maybe we should do that next. But to riff with AI about that has been very eye-opening as well. Sometimes we are right on target, and other times we're like, wait a second, let's think about this for a minute and maybe look at it in another way. But one of the most exciting things for a building leader is to see an initiative begin to kind of grow legs and take off, and teachers get excited about it because you feel like, wow, it's really working, helping kids, or it's serving a need, fulfilling a need that teachers have. So as you have been working on this, can you tell me a little bit about when you started to realize that your influence was extending just beyond your own classroom, and it was spreading out into, other teachers' classrooms, and what that experience was like for you?
Absolutely. I truly feel that, feeling that excitement as an administrator, but as well as a teacher leader, it's just, that's the win, right? That's the win of feeling that excitement and knowing that you were able to make a little bit of an impression, or give somebody something that they can use in their classroom to help and support another student. So when you're getting emails or text messages at night saying, I can't believe that this worked today in my classroom, and I'm so excited to share it with tomorrow with my colleagues, or getting an email that says, I really loved your PD. Can I come down to your classroom to see this in practice? That's where you start to see what you're doing. And again, holding true to what you do every single day in your classroom. That's when you start to see it come out of your classroom and start to filter across not only your community of teachers, but also in other schools in your district, with other friends that you have as teachers, just having that conversation. And I feel like I was always innately a person that liked to help people, and I like to work with people. I like to have that community of building teachers that really have a great confidence, and they love to come to work. You love coming to work and you love your job, then you have not worked a day in your life, right? And that's a famous saying that we hear a lot, but it's true. So when I started to go into the PLCs and the PDPs, I've always reflected back on, what am I doing in my classroom? And is this working? Do I have the data in my own classroom, first of all, to then go out and share it with other people? Because if I can't see it and I can't do it in my own classroom, if it's not working for me, I can't share it with other people. But when we started to talk about strategy groups and working collaboratively and planning PLCs with our school and our third grade, just focusing on what those students needed and what was doable in our classroom, we saw this energy and this confidence in our school that you wanted to get into the initiative, because not that just to do it because people were doing it. It was more of, wow, I want to try this because I want to work as a community of learners. And I think that that's where we have to focus, working together, not against, working together to form that sense of connected community. And once you do that, that connects to the next connection and the next connection. But you always have to come back to your best rooted practices. You always have to stay humble to what you do in your classroom, because that's where you're going to then be able to, with confidence, lead others to do it. So learn, teach, and then lead, just like we've been saying, right? So that our PLCs were focused on analyzing students' data. But when we go into our PLC, again, we're bringing real data to the table. It's not made up. It's what are we really doing? And actually, when I started my PLC for the new year, this year, my two questions were, what do you want to leave in 2025? And what do you want to bring with you in 2026? Right? So that reflective practice helps teachers understand what's working and what's not, because sometimes what's not needs to go and we need to put in what is working. But having that realistic view of, we're doing it in our classrooms, let me show you how, and let's work together to do it. We're all here to support each other. I think that's the mindset that has to be had in order for this initiative and this learning and teaching and leading to spread to your colleagues, working with them, supporting them, working with your district colleagues, doing PDs and telling them, I'm here for you. We're here to support you. We're here. We understand. Like, I understand what you go through every day in a classroom. I'm right there with you. I'm living it, 24/7 with you. So I understand. I think that there's that comfort in knowing that they understand what you do in your classroom. So it makes them want to try it in theirs because, listen, we try, we fail, we try again. Pick yourself up. You know how many days I came in and I said, wow, let me redo that lesson the second time because I'm not sure that I got the concept right. And understanding that and not putting on that facade of, oh, I did it perfect every day in my classroom, because we didn't. I didn't. So using that as a reflection of where you're going next is real.
Yeah.
And the real is the buy-in of getting the teachers to want to work toward that shared mission with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have another question, not on the list of questions that I gave you, though.
Uh-oh. Now you're
So,
really putting me on the spot.
yeah. So my question is, what advice would you give to other teachers who want to step forward as a teacher leader? Because, I've been in this district a long time, and I've seen some pretty remarkable and amazing things happening in classrooms. And if if more teacher leaders step forward to share some of the brilliant things that they've come up with in their classrooms, things they've worked really hard on, and they've, kind of kneaded all the bubbles out of the clay, and now they've, got something really worth sharing. What advice would you give to someone who wants to step forward as a teacher leader, but maybe doesn't want to be pushy or show off, or, sometimes it's like that shyness that people have to overcome?
And I think I go back to what qualities that I have and I feel that I possess as a teacher leader. And again, it's not perfection, it's growth.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people that I hear, get nervous that the lesson wasn't perfect. But it's not about the perfection. It's about how are your students growing, comparing their growth to themselves. How did they do in their writing assignment as versus how did they do in their next writing assignment? So I try to instill that in my students in my class. It's not a competition over the class. It's a competition of how you're growing. And I feel like I would say that to a teacher as well. It's not about your perfection as a teacher. It's about how you're growing as a teacher and what you're learning. And it's about the effort you're putting into it. And it's not always about the win. It's about how you're working with your colleagues to get to that next step. So if I can give a teacher advice, that would probably be it. Again, take the high road, use integrity, use good judgment, use professionalism. Don't always go for that, always the win. Use the sense of collaboration to drive your mission forward. And again, use that sense of it's my success that I'm measuring,
Hmm.
not how everybody's reacting to it. How did I succeed? And can I help somebody else with what I succeeded in my classroom? Can I now share it with my colleagues? Because they might want to try it, they might not. But at least I can share it with them in case maybe they will try it, and that might get the ball rolling of another initiative coming down.
Yeah. And I do notice, Robin, that you tend to get very excited or just as excited about how other teachers' students are progressing as you do about your own. So many times you've come in to share with me work that you're doing with another teacher, just as excited about, that other teacher's success in the classroom as you are about your own. So you definitely model that and demonstrate that. So let's leave people with a few key takeaways about what it means to be a teacher leader. You definitely hit on one, that's having a growth mindset. You don't have to be have complete mastery of something to step forward as a teacher leader. You just need to be a lifelong learner and have this growth mindset, a focus on continual improvement. You talked about having the lived experience. You've tried it in your classroom, and so you can share that experience with your colleagues in a very genuine way with integrity and, just kind of being honest about what's happening day to day. What other takeaways could we leave our listeners with?
I just think be confident in you as a teacher. have that confidence. You're doing an amazing job. You're doing a wonderful job. You're showing up for your students, to be there for them. You can also then in turn show up for your colleagues as well. Be there for them, be there to support each other. We come from a very supportive school that, you really, Jeanine, have a wonderful impact on. The support of you trickling down to the staff has been amazing. And that allows us then to be supportive of each other. So thank you for that. And I just will tell my colleagues and teachers out there, be confident and collaborate. You'll have fun. Your teachers will have fun. You know how many times I come in, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the strategy groups. Like, we're excited about these strategy groups because we collaborate together. It's a togetherness. It's a community of teaching and learning. And truly, that's what makes a school run successful.
Yes, and I'm going to go back to one thing that I think we didn't mention it because for us it's like, well, yeah, of course, but I think it bears kind of pointing out, and that is that teacher leaders are going to be focusing very strongly on the students' work, looking very closely at their work and, looking for the evidence of improvement or progress based on the instructional practices that we're using. Like all of this is great if we're just, we're going along, we're trying different techniques, we're coming up with different strategy groups and ideas and things like that. But the real reward is when we continually look at the students' work and we see their progress. So just tying everything back to student outcome, I think is also, a hallmark of great teacher leadership. So
students are always at the center of everything that we do and all of the decisions that we make during the year. Teachers have fun planning that together, and that's the collaboration, but students are always at the center of our initiative.
Yeah. Well, Robyn, you exude teacher leadership in every positive way. So thank you for that. And I know next week we're going to flip the script a little bit, and you're going to get to interview me about, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that building leaders face in cultivating initiatives and teacher leadership within the building. So it was
I'm
a fun.
excited.
Yeah, fun topic to talk about. Well, folks, that old clock on the wall tells us it is time to wrap up another episode of Learn, Teach, Lead, our Friday debrief. We've shared a few lessons, unpacked a few stories, and maybe sparked a few new ideas for your classroom or your leadership journey.
As always, we hope you take what you've learned, teach it forward, and lead with purpose. Thanks for spending part of your week with us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.